Hello, I'm going to do a presentation here about why OpenSciEd, and this is a target towards secondary science teachers. So a little bit about myself. So my name is Will Bauer. I use he, him pronouns. This past school year, I was the ESD OpenSciEd project manager. In the last few years, I've taught 9 uh, OpenSciEd middle school units and 2 high school units in Southwest Washington. I got started as a middle school field test teacher in 2018. And then more recently, the last 2 school years, I was facilitating the high school chemistry professional learning for the high school chemistry field test teachers. I've also had roles as a curriculum consultant and helping to do some initial writing and revisions on the high school biology and high school chemistry curriculum for OpenSciEd. And then I also am a national OpenSciEd facilitator. So there's a picture of my students uh, engaged in an OpenSciEd unit from my classroom. And then when I'm not doing OpenSciEd, I spend a lot of time at my family's farm in Ridgefield, Washington. So within Washington State, there is an amazing network of support that you can tap into. So within the 9 educational service districts, there are 10 regional science coordinators who can tell you more about OpenSciEd. In addition to the regional science coordinators, also encourage you to reach out to Johanna Brown and Kimberly Astle, who are the science specialists at OSPI. So the OpenSciEd professional learning that has occurred in the last few years was made possible from a grant, the ESSER funding, which provided professional learning opportunities for teachers interested in trying OpenSciEd in their classroom. And a lot of that work was organized through the 9 ESDs and the 10 regional science coordinators. And then this past year, I took on a role through this funding to support that network and collaborate with OSPI. The project's goal was to have a statewide partnership to accelerate student learning. And through the use of OpenSciEd instructional materials and professional learning, we found that these materials help support students and teacher social emotional needs as they recover from COVID-19 pandemic and all of its impacts. And that we through these professional learning events, we've been able to build capacity by statewide by training facilitators to train other teachers in how to use the OpenSciEd professional learning materials and have their instruction be more aligned to the next generation science standards. If you'd like to learn more about OpenSciEd and what's been happening in Washington, I encourage you to go to this website, and this is where this presentation will be housed as well. In addition to the ESSER funding, the Climb Time Science Grant has been another big support. So this is funding from the Washington State Legislature targeted at NGSS implementation and climate science professional learning. They partner with a lot of community-based organizations and help make materials such as OpenSciEd accessible and available to teachers across the state. So in this presentation, I will go into a little bit more depth on the key features of the OpenSciEd curriculum. I'll give a brief overview of the scope and sequence of the middle school and high school curriculum. And then I'll end with a few quotes from students and teachers, what they're saying about the OpenSciEd professional learning materials and curriculum. So The OpenSciEd materials have kind of 5 key features. So it's phenomena based. Each unit has a central phenomena. It's coherent for students. Um, that the order of uh, lessons and why you're doing this lesson and this lesson is coherent from the student's perspective and based off their questions and ideas. It's driven by evidence and investigations. It's very collaborative, a lot of group discussion, and then also it's equitable that it builds a classroom culture where all ideas are valued. So here's a few examples of phenomena you'll find in the high school units. Uh, so the ecosystems unit is based around the phenomena of wildebeest migration in the Serengeti. A chemistry unit about thermodynamics is focused on polar ice melt and how to prevent it. And the a physics unit it is focused on the Texas blackout and how we generate electricity and distribute it. Um, and so these units are all focused around a phenomena, and that's supposed to pique a student's interest. They did national surveys of students, and they ranked the phenomena that they found most interesting, and that helped guide the selection of the phenomena that you'll find in the curriculum. The curriculum is coherent from a student's perspective. So when you initially launch a unit, you have students generate a bunch of questions about these phenomena I mentioned in the previous slide, and use those questions and ideas for investigation to drive the next steps. OpenSciEd is also driven by evidence as well. So here's the students doing an investigation and sharing some data. It's also very collaborative. So there's community agreements that are referenced throughout the curriculum, and the teachers guide have a lot of supports on how to co-construct these community agreements and revise them and revisit them throughout the school year. The curriculum is also very equitable. You're always trying to bring in the interests and perspectives of students and make the learning relevant to their lives. So here is the instructional model for OpenSciEd. So you can see it's not necessarily like a linear process, but each unit will start with an anchor phenomena where you investigate the main phenomena for the unit. You generate a bunch of questions on your driving question board, and then the navigation routine is kind of like, well, what question do we answer first? And you work with students to figure out where to go next. And then you do maybe a series of investigations, 3 or 4 lessons, and then there's sort of a synthesis part where you're putting the pieces together. But usually after 3 or 4 investigations, you haven't completely understood the phenomena or come up with a gapless explanation. So that's where the problematizing routine is, where you try to kind of push the model past its working point and get students thinking about some new questions that their model doesn't explain yet. And then that kind of starts the process over again. And by the end of the unit, you'll look and see how many questions you've answered from what you initially were curious about. So this is the middle school sequence for the OpenSciEd curriculum. So it is an integrated approach where you have a mix of like kind of physical science, earth science, and life science all in one school year. I also want to kind of point out that there's these arrows that kind of show how these units are built on each other. So, my recommendation is that if your school or you choose to implement this in your classroom, that it will be easiest to follow this sequence, but then there's also a reality that might not be the what will work for you or your school or your colleagues. But this flow chart can help you make whatever revisions you need to fit your local context. This is the scope and sequence for high school. So the way the high school materials are organized is that you have freshmen taking biology, sophomores taking chemistry, juniors taking physics, with earth science integrated throughout these 3 years. And there's again these arrows showing how these performance expectations are built across units within a course, or they're built across multiple courses. So especially with the chemistry and physics, there's a lot of connectedness, where they're maybe only getting a partial understanding of one physical science performance expectation, but then adding to it in the physics here. So really, I see this as a kind of a 2-year sequence. They're very interconnected. As I kind of alluded to, the performance expectations for physical science are split across chemistry and physics, and all the life science pretty much is in biology. And that all 3 are integrating earth science. So here's a couple little news clips from some of our trainings that we've done, of teachers experiencing the professional learning and learning about the curriculum, and getting to do some hands-on experiences, experience it like as if they were students. And our facilitators are modeling their instruction of how they would teach it to middle school students. So here's one quote from a 6th grade field test teacher from Ferndale. She said that the level of engagement is higher because it really gets more students involved. Students find themselves excited. Kids are surprising me. Their confidence is up. They're giving me more complex answers. Another teacher who reached out to me this year from Kennewick said that after attending a training, she finally started her first OpenSciEd unit the last week, and my first impression was it was the most fun teaching I've had in 3 years. So teachers are excited at what this curriculum has to offer, and are encouraged to try it out after they've experienced some professional learning. So if you're wanting to know more about OpenSciEd, I encourage you to contact your regional science coordinator, and for secondary, contact Johanna Brown at OSPI for more information. And this presentation will be on the WAESD website, and there'll be other links and resources to explore there as well. All right, thank you so much for your time. And just wanted to let you know that there's also a more general presentation about OpenSciEd in Washington and Washington State's role in its development, and then another presentation that's more focused towards questions that administrators might have about this curriculum. So hopefully you can take some time to watch those as well. All right, thank you.